The topics for today's discussions are actually quite personal to folks like me. You know, I grew up in rural Kentucky, not too far from Clarksville, Tennessee. Grew up on tobacco farms and drawing, setting, topping, cutting, and stripping tobacco. And know what it means to be out in the world, but we never dreamed that we could have some of the things that city folk had. But it's not just a convenience anymore. You know, just like REA with the Electric Act and what went on, that's key critical infrastructure that our rural communities particularly and maybe more importantly need. So hopefully what we're going to cover today is something that's personal to you as well, and that we're going to focus. This isn't a sales conference, this isn't a marketing conference where we're going to try to tell you how good ADTRAN is. We just figured you already know that. All right. But we do want it to be a workshop. We want it to be, I guess we don't want it to be stiff. We want today's thing to be as interactive as is possible, so we're not going to have tons of PowerPoint slides and different things. You know, I might tell you that we've been doing this business for 30 years and we're the #2 provider of it across the globe with broadband and fiber products that are out there. But more importantly, we want you to be able to explore what's going on, what your options are. We're going to talk about some of the applications and the things that are driving some of the need for this. And then towards the end of the day, we're going to talk about the different people that have already gone through this and have gone through the different challenges, the obstacles. We're going to figure out how to get around them when we can. We're going to figure out how to blow them up when we need to, and how to get rid of those obstacles. So again, just thank you guys for coming. I want you to know too, we couldn't pull this off. We have some partners here with us, FiberRise, AFL, and Logicom. Thank you guys for helping us put this together. Without them being here, we couldn't pull this off, so thank you very, very much. So throughout the day, we're just going to kind of keep this low-key and casual. Broadband is very important. I think you know that broadband deployment can be expensive. So I was reminded that today as I was going through, and you know, for those of you here local, our local representative, Representative Adderholt with the Alabama District 4 earlier this year announced, you know, that he helped secure in the federal budget, what was it, James, $625 million just in the federal budget from rural development. One of the people that will be here with us today, Tom Bigby, was able to secure, I think, $3 million worth of that, some of that month funding that's going in there. So just glad to have, by the way, James Finasco with Adderholt's office is here. Congratulations, or wait, maybe it's condolences on last night, because you didn't quite make 80% market share or the election. I think you are at 79.9 or something, so maybe next time you'll get up to the full 80+%, okay? Thank you, and please pass along our appreciation as a community for what he's doing to help get rid of this digital divide that we have in rural communities. So with that, I'm not going to go through a lot of other things. My theme is not to be a talking head, so I'd like to introduce Tommy Harmon, the CEO of FiberRise. He's got a few comments, and then he's going to introduce our next speaker. Tommy, thank you guys for being here very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to thank everybody for taking time to join us. This is, when Mark and I talked about putting this together, we really, I made it clear, Mark agreed, we want this to be productive. This is a very important time. As Mark mentioned, a lot of RUS dollars available next year. So we've got a good group of folks today. I want to thank our panelists that have taken time to come speak to us. I want to thank you all for taking time to be here. From a panelist perspective, we've got co-ops that have been in the broadband business for 7 years. We've got co-ops just entering the business, so we've covered the gamut, and I think it'll be very educational. And then from a practical perspective, the goal is for you all to leave knowing not only the challenges, but the opportunities, and really to be prepared to get educated and try to be ready the next year or two to make a decision if indeed these RUS dollars are readily available and you want to pursue those. So it's very, very important to learn and adapt. We want to thank ADTRAN. Thank you very much, ADTRAN. It's a great setup. It's very nice. Appreciate your support. And just couldn't ask for a nicer welcome today. So thank you all for that. I do get the privilege to introduce our speaker, our kickoff keynote speaker. I've worked with her on and off over the years. She's been an encouragement to me She's helped many of our co-ops be successful in this business. She's got a long background. She led the whole fiber movement in broadband, community broadband. She led the fiber movement with EPB. And very thankful and excited to introduce Katie Espeseth with Chattanooga Electric Power Board. Please welcome her.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for asking me to join your meeting today. I'm excited to be here. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, so I apologize for that, but we will, in fact, try to make this more conversational than a presentation. So I'm going to talk about why we did broadband, and it's all captured on this first slide. It's about empowering a community. It's about empowering the community where my hometown. So let me give you a little bit of background or talk a little bit about Chattanooga. We're neighbors, so I probably shouldn't have to do this. But we're home to about 170,000 folks in the city of Chattanooga. If you go out from there in the greater MSA, it's about 400,000 people. And EPB is actually owned, the Electric Power Board of Chattanooga is actually a municipally owned electric power distributor. So we're owned by the city of Chattanooga, but we operate as an independent board of the city. We were created in 1935, put in our community really to help our community grow and prosper. So just like all of you all that are here today, our mission then is the same mission that we have today, and it's all about economic development and improving the quality of life for the folks who live in our service territory. You know, in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and through that time period, the path to fulfilling that mission was really very simple. It was about bringing electrification to the valley. And I don't have to explain to this crowd what having electricity does for economic development, right? So that was clear. As we began to get closer to 2000, we realized, okay, what does that really mean in this day and time? I think I mentioned we're owned by the city of Chattanooga, so every time we have a new elected mayor, our CEO goes and sits down in front of the mayor and introduces himself, although they usually know each other, and gives them a little idea of what it is that we do. So there's a story that's actually very true. And in about the year 2000, we had a new mayor, Mayor John Kinsey, who in fact was a developer in Chattanooga. So Harold the Priest, that many of you all know, was our CEO at the time. Harold went and sat in front of Mayor Kinsey, and he went through everything about keeping the lights on, about keeping the house warm in the winter, keeping your milk cool so you can enjoy it. And Mayor Kinsey said, I know all that, but what do you do for the community? Harold was really furious, and he tells that story that he was so angry that how dare he undervalue what it is that we do. But Harold came back to the office and said, you know, maybe we do need to be thinking about how we are reimagining our mission in the 2000 and going forward. So how do we do that? So we started to think, okay, if we want businesses to locate in Chattanooga, if we want good paying jobs, if we want our kids to stay in Chattanooga, how do we do that? So we looked at it from a kind of a reverse lens and said, what do companies look for when they're either going to establish a presence, when they're going to expand? And two things came up on that list that we said we might be able to do something about that. And that's provide more reliable electric power and give them advanced communication services. And in this case, this meant access to high-speed broadband. And you know, we were just like any other electric company. We weren't any worse than anybody, and we weren't any better than anybody. We thought we did actually a pretty good job. So we started looking at some outside research to try to figure out what is the real cost of power outages to our community. We leaned heavily on this particular study, and I'm sure you all probably have seen it before. It was done at the Berkeley Lab, UC Berkeley Labs, and it estimated the cost of power outages to the whole country at $80 billion a year. So we worked with the EPRI folks and said, well, kind of make that more real for Chattanooga. That $80 billion doesn't really seem like a real number. So we came to a joint understanding that the cost of power outages to a community about the size of Chattanooga was $100 million a year. And as y'all know, it's not cost to us, right? I mean, we're not delivering power, we're not paying TVA for power. But what it really means is it's lost to the community. Things like that manufacturer doesn't get to run that shift that day, so they don't pay wages. The restaurants have to close. They're not running credit cards. It's that kind of economic problems that it causes in a community when the power is off. So we said any bite we can take out of that, anything we can do to reduce power outages is just $1 in the pocket of our community. So then we said, well, what about advanced communication services? So we started to take stock of who was in Chattanooga and what they were doing for us. And we are served today, and we were at that point in time by 2 Tier 1 incumbent companies. Large companies, everybody in this room knows them, and you probably compete against them, or at least you work with them in your own area. And as we began to look, we realized we're not an NFL city, right? So one of those big companies with 3 letters is not going to put a lot of investment in our community. And the other one with a little bit longer name that delivered cable service to our customers, Chattanooga was in the lowest 2% of technology of any of their markets in the country. We started looking at, okay, if we do this, we want to talk to our customers about what they want. They didn't know what video on demand was. They didn't know what high definition channels were. I mean, that's how much Chattanooga was underserved at that point in time. So we said, okay, how do we do both those things? How do we improve our electric system, and how do we deliver this high-speed broadband? We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what technology, what platform would do that for us, do both of those things with one type of technology. And we landed on fiber. And there's more options today. This was in 2004, 5, and 6. I'm sure there are more options today. But for us, and I still think it rings true, fiber is pretty much future-proof. I mean, there's not going to be anything that comes along in my lifetime, certainly, that's going to supplant what you can do with fiber optics. And if you think about it over the long term, from your operational costs and a lot of things, it's really pretty cost-effective. We had 11 tornadoes come through our service territory in 2011, and 3/4 of our system was on the ground. Most of ours is overhead. And we'd go back, and as soon as we put the power lines back up, we'd put the fiber back up, and the fiber was still passing light. So, I mean, it is resilient, it is low cost to maintain. So fiber is the route that we went. We started building in 2006, and here's where we are today. We built this first and foremost to deliver more reliable electric power. So today we have smart meters on all 175,000 of homes and businesses in our service territory. We've got about 9,000 miles of fiber in our service territory that passes everyone. We have 1,200 automated switches on our electric system. They're called interrupter switches, and they're really smart, and when they sense fault on the line, they immediately, in milliseconds, reroute the power in a different direction around that fault. I mean, no matter how smart, we like to think of our grid as the smartest grid. Trees still fall on it, right? I mean, it's not so smart that it doesn't take out a power line. But these smart switches actually reroute power around that, so nobody past that fault loses power. If the lights sometimes will flicker, that's what we've tried to tell people, that's the smart grid rerouting power around that. So what has that really done for the community? We can document about a 50% reduction in power outage duration and power outage instances. So if we go back to that $100 million figure, that's $50 million of savings or lost productivity that we've returned to the community by doing this. So regardless of whether you take our communication service or whether you live up in the northernmost part of our service territory or in the city of Chattanooga, everybody enjoys the same benefits of the electric system. So we took that same fiber optic network and we started rolling out communication services. And today we offer triple play, IPTV, internet service, and yes, we still offer landlines in Chattanooga. And we like to say that we were America's first gig. And I gotta tell you, I know we weren't the first service provider in the country to deliver gig services, But why we say that is that when we rolled out gig services, all 175,000 of our customers could get it on the same day. So whether you're a business, no matter where you are, you don't have to be an industrial park. We don't have to bill to you. Anybody can order gig services. And in fact, that happened in 2009. We came back in 2015 and rolled out access to 10 gig services. Now, we only have a few customers who use the 10 gig services, but people will figure out what to do with it. When we launched a gig, we only had a handful of gig services. So there are a lot of smart people out there who know what to do with that type bandwidth. While we were working on the business plan, we worked with an economist at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and we said, help us project the economic benefits to Chattanooga if we do this. And Dr. Lobo came back with his study, and we used that as part of our business planning. It was really a great foundation and really reinforced why we wanted to do this. Well, we asked him to come back 5 years after we launched and said, now that you actually have some hard data, what can you document? And his study shows about 5,200 new jobs brought to the area, not solely because of this network, but as a contributor to bringing those companies and those type jobs to the area. And I'm proud to say, a couple of weeks ago, we turned up our 100,000th subscriber. And I never thought we'd do that, I have to be honest with you. So that was a real benchmark, and it was a real cause for celebration, and certainly in our company. Let's talk about really more about what it does for the community itself. I think I touched on this earlier when I said a 50% reduction in power outages, about $50 million in savings to our customers. I touched on this about Dr. Lobo's slide, Dr. Lobo's numbers. In addition to the jobs, he also references about anywhere between $865 million to $1.3 billion worth of economic benefit to the community in the first 5 years of operation. Here's some real benefits to not only to our own company, but certainly to the community. We use a model, we treat this fiber optic network as an electric asset to power the smart grid. And then the electric system leases that fiber, and we have allocations between the two divisions, things like shared salaries, shared floor, all the real estate and all those sort of things. Anyway, the bottom line is that June 30th of this past year, we pushed almost $43 million of cash from the fiber optic system over to the electric system. And that's perfectly legal. You can move any kind of money to the electric system that you want to. It is not cross-subsidization. So what that means for our electric customers is that our rates are about 8% lower than they would have been had we not built this fiber optic system. So it doesn't matter if you take our communication services or not, you still have lower electric rates because of that. We're also the largest taxpayer, although we're in lieu of taxpayer, in both our city and county. And we kind of like that. We don't really mind. We don't mind paying those taxes because those taxes stay in our community. And they fund the schools, they fund a lot of great things for the community that we wouldn't be able to afford if we didn't do that. It's also a catalyst. It also has gone a long way. Those job numbers did not include numbers to entrepreneurial type startups. I don't know if you recognize any of these logos on the screen. I'll point out the Lamppost Group first. That is a venture capital group that was actually funded and founded by 4 very young entrepreneurs. They were so delighted to have access to high bandwidth that they said, well, what do we do with it now? So they established a $50,000 prize the first year we were in business, and they went national and said, come to Chattanooga, spend the summer, and we're going to award $50,000 to the team or the person that comes up with the best idea of what you do with the gig. Well, that kind of spread like wildfire, right? So we had a lot of companies join in that. We had some other businesses come to Chattanooga and join. And so that now is a year-round competition. That first year we called it Gig Tank. Now it's a year-round competition that's housed in the CoLab. You see that logo on the screen as well. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of bellhops. They were founded in Chattanooga out of the collab space. They're the Uber of moving companies. So I can call them, I can go to their app, and I can order a moving van and very strong people at my door within like an hour. And they'll give me a quote and they'll move me. And they're all over the country today. Branch Technologies that you see is housed in the business incubator in Chattanooga. They have the world's largest 3D printer. They were the first company to print a 3D house. And it worked. And they do that today in Chattanooga. How many of y'all have ever used the Open Table app? Okay, it was started by 4 youngsters in Chattanooga who sold that to a larger company for $11 million. So we had 4 very young entrepreneurial millionaires in just a few months' time. And they're proud to raise their hand and said they couldn't have developed that and wouldn't have had the talent in Chattanooga had we not had access to high bandwidth. Another great thing is that it's really enabled us to form great partnerships. You see a lot of these logos, and I'm sure a lot of you all work with many of these companies yourselves. You know, we're located 90 miles south of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and this has just turned into a great relationship. Basically, the folks at Oak Ridge National Labs and EPB are working together to try to figure out how do you take the electric grid off the internet. And so they're using our fiber optic network as a living laboratory. And they're happy to use other living laboratories. They're not just working exclusively with EPB, but they're looking for places that are forward-looking, who'll work with them, let them test, and especially using fiber optics. Something that's really important to us, and I'm sure it is in your community, is about how do you empower or how do you improve public education in your community. One of those relationships on the previous slide with the National Science Foundation, we're fortunate to work with them and with the USC, University of Southern California, Edinburgh Innovation Lab. So we began to brainstorm ideas about how do we really enable long-distance education between some of the professors at USC, and we started with our STEM school in Chattanooga. So we networked high-speed microscopes. So our children at the STEM school actually are being taught by professors at the University of Southern California. Let me show you this quick video.
Ever think about the micro world that surrounds us? That fascinating world that is critical to life on Earth and yet is otherwise invisible to us? Well, kids in Chattanooga, Tennessee are about to learn about this world in a whole new way, thanks to the National Science Foundation, US Ignite, researchers at the University of Southern California, gigabit connectivity, and high-resolution microscopy.
Marine biologist, Professor Dave Karen, has just started teaching a class at USC with remote students at STEM School Chattanooga.
STEM students in Chattanooga, home to the country's first community-wide gigabit network, are experiencing biology and STEM like never before.
So what's exciting is we've taken a digital cinema camera that would normally be used for making Hollywood movies and combined it with this microscope and put it under remote control, so you students in Chattanooga can actually move the image.
It makes it look 3D by the different shapes and different colors.
The interactive high-resolution microscopy system enables researchers at USC to place live biological specimens under a digital cinema microscope and capture ultra-high-resolution movies of the microorganisms while simultaneously transmitting live, high-definition images from the microscope system to students in the STEM class. Under the guidance of the USC biologists, STEM students can enhance their learning further by manipulating the microscope effectively at very low latency levels.
When our teacher first talked to us about it, she was like, you're going to be able to control the microscope. And we were just like, oh, okay, cool. We get here and it's all these fancy controls. So you've got the big screen, and we were just kind of in awe.
The project represents the first to integrate digital cinema, optical microscopy, aquatic microbiology, flat panel displays, and gigabit networks into an educational environment in a scalable fashion.
So this project really represents one of the first attempts at that.
I mean, we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that microscope is in Los Angeles.
1,800 miles away.
1,800 miles away.
1,800 miles away. It was amazing to see kids that are harder to get engaged in science or think they're not good at science. They were engaged almost instantaneously when they saw these microorganisms on the screen.
Are there any questions?
We couldn't even function with words how to explain how cool this was.
I got to like play with microscopes and stuff, but they never really grabbed my attention, to be honest. Actually getting like to see specific things moving around, and then all you had to do was like ask, and he knew like exactly what it was. Like I thought that was really cool.
The microscopes I used before have an image like this big, so this is a drastic change.
He could actually see little organisms moving around. A lot of 10th and 9th graders who would walk by and like scoot over and glance, be like, oh, what are they doing? I want to be able to do that. I hope we get to do that next year.
As an educational tool, this project gives students the opportunity to see, appreciate, and understand the complexity, beauty, and science of the micro world that surrounds us.
Having access to top research scientists and equipment that's only available at USC, these students are going to be able to do some groundbreaking research that hopefully is going to foster a love of science.
The impact on subjects like biology could be enormous, with thousands of additional high school students becoming inspired to choose the sciences as focus for their careers, well before they reach a college campus.
My entry level before is like right here, and then it's like, okay, it really is.
So I can tell you, without access to high-speed broadband, our kids in Chattanooga would never have been able to enjoy this experience. What you saw was the first year where we had one microscope in the STEM school. This year, with the help of the Mozilla Foundation and some from USDA, which, by the way, is very interested in talking to other areas to do something similar, have funded microscopes in some of our other high schools. So, and we're not just about connecting to USC. We'd love to connect to other folks so we can begin to really maximize this remote education kind of application. In fact, we've taken some of this type of software, and it's actually it's embedded in our 4th floor of our public library downtown. You know, I didn't realize this, but public libraries are kind of the heart of downtown. And so you can go to that 4th floor, and actually there's connectivity to Burlington, Vermont, and kids come in and take music lessons, scheduled music lessons with folks out of Burlington, Vermont. It may sound kind of silly and may not be a great use, what you think is a great use, but it really has opened the eyes of a lot of our folks and of what you really can do. You're not just limited to the resources in your own service territory. I think I mentioned when we rolled out a gig and when we rolled this, we really had no idea what people were going to do with it, honestly. We said, our job is to build it, we build the infrastructure, but the community has got to become collaborative and figure out how you maximize this. So our city mayor and our county mayor got together and they established the Enterprise Center. And the Enterprise Center grew into an innovation district downtown. And so that innovation district is just several blocks in downtown, and it's a densely populated area that's meant for businesses to collide, basically. It's for entrepreneurs to be able to have a safe space, to be able to interface not only with technology companies, but with the university, which borders the innovation district. I mentioned I was proud of our 100,000 customer. I really am more proud of this announcement that came out the same day we announced our number of customers. And that's a formal smart community collaborative. And this is really the value to the community. It's not how many customers you can hook up, but this is a formal collaborative between the city, the university, certainly EPB, Erlanger Hospital, which if I was shocked really when I sat back and realized that Erlanger Hospital in Chattanooga is the 7th largest public hospital in the country. There's so many great things going on in Erlanger. What if you opened Erlanger up to more visibility into the community and you really began to tackle some tough problems? So we focused on 3 areas: health, clearly Erlanger's sweet spot; transportation, And then energy, which we think is our sweet spot to be part of this collaborative. But why should utilities really matter? I'm going to throw up a few slides and just talk about things. Who in this room has seen your electric load increase recently? If you're like us, oh, that's great. That means people are moving in. For us, our load is decreasing. Things like energy efficiency, people moving to renewables, that sort of thing. So we got to figure out a way to control our usage, and we got to figure out for two reasons. One, we need another revenue stream, but we also need to be able to control how we pay TVA. We need to be able to control when we use that power so we can reduce our wholesale power. Electric cars. I mean, when you look at the money that people spend on gas today, and you think about the electric car forecast coming, I mean, it's real, it's coming our way, like 40 million cars on the road in like 15, 20 years. They're going to use electricity. They're not going to use so much oil and gas. What an awesome opportunity for us as a utility if we can manage when they charge their cars. We can manage that load. It certainly will go a long way. And as we all look at moving out and looking at distributed generation, you really have to have this kind of communications, or you've got to be able to control those options at the end of your service territory. And here's the Internet of Things, which is a big word, and it's kind of like smart grid. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But if you boil that down to how many personal devices people have, and you think about it, I saw one number, in some cases 12 and 15 devices in a home, and I think that's probably only the beginning. When you think about it, you've got a smart thermostat, you've got a smart door lock, everybody's got a phone and an iPad. It just goes on and on and on. And you got to be able to connect those devices. So you got to be able to control your energy, but you got to be able to communicate with those devices, because without communication, those devices are pretty much worthless. And yes, autonomous driving cars, they are headed our way. And those cars require massive communication. And who better than us as a utility? We're everywhere. We own the poles, we own the right-of-ways. It really is a wonderfully rich opportunity for us to play in that game. But why is it urgent that we do it right now? Why don't we wait a little bit longer? It took 60 years for Americans to get electricity. It took 15 years for 90% of Americans to get a cell phone. There is no comparison between electricity and communications. It's our philosophy that things are changing at such a faster pace. We need to be able to adapt, or someone else will adapt and we'll be left behind. Here's an example of a papal conclave in 2005. You see two phones out. You notice they're flip phones there. Look at 8 years later. Look at the number of cellular devices at the same event. I mean, that's in 8 years' time. So we looked at what was going on in the world, and then we said, okay, maybe we should listen to our customers, because we're certainly the closest to our customers. And what we realized when we started talking to them about the internet is it's kind of a scary place. You can't pick up a paper without somebody having been hacked. There's cyber criminals everywhere. So we have a lot of our customers that said we don't really trust a lot of people to bring these type of services to us. And I think I mentioned this, the number of personal devices in the home is just exploding. And being able to manage those devices is just really kind of opening stakes. I mean, that's the universal expectation of folks. We also heard, we also heard that our customers don't care about the technology. They don't want to know that it's PON or fiber or anything else. They just want to know that it's fast and that it works, and whoever comes and installs it and maintains it is someone that they can trust. We also learned that customers are willing to pay for comfort and convenience. I mean, I've been known to stop and buy milk at a convenience store on the way home, and I know I'm paying a lot more for that milk than I would if I had gone into a larger store. I paid $2 at an ATM just for the convenience of being able to do that. So the point of saying this is that customers will pay you for what you do. You don't have to be the lowest cost provider. You just got to be close. But the customers are going to be willing to pay a premium because they trust you and they know that you'll do the right thing for them. This kind of pains me to say, since products fall under my responsibility. We like to think the fiber certainly is a differentiator in our market. But it's really about the way we treat the customer. At the end of the day, it's really about how we treat the customers. Customer service, at least in Chattanooga, was a pretty low bar, honestly. We learned that when we were willing to put booties on our feet, which is a shot which has turned into an iconic shot, actually, that we never dreamed. When we were willing to not track mud into people's homes, when we were willing to clean up after ourselves, when we'd be there when we said we'd be there, they were absolutely ecstatic. And that's the business that you all and we all are in today, right? It's about customer service. No matter what we say about products, no matter what we say about technology, it's really at the end of the day how you treat the customer. And it's how you treat the customer today as a utility. So it's not a change for you. I bet if you went out, and many of you I'm sure have gone out and tested your brand to say, what do you think about my utility as compared to a communications company, a wireless company? I bet you'd be surprised, maybe you wouldn't be, at how highly, what people really think about you. They trust you. They've trusted you for a long time. And you're local. They know where they can find you. And that goes a long way, so don't ever underestimate that at all. So I'd say that the biggest reason I think that it's a tremendous idea for all of us to jump into this pond is that customers trust us. And we have a long, long legacy of doing the right things for customers. And this is just that next evolution. So it's not a difficult leap. You're just doing the next thing for them. Chattanooga has always been able, I think, to kind of punch above our weight a little bit. And it's really about the collaborative spirit in Chattanooga. And it's about community involvement. And I don't think we're unlike your community. I don't think we're unlike a lot of communities in the country today. It's about when you collapse around a problem locally and you all lean in and you collaborate on a solution, it works, and it works better. So that's kind of become the mantra in Chattanooga, is working together works. It is not unique to Chattanooga. I think it's unique to all of our communities. So thank you for your time this morning. I'm happy if you want to do questions. If not, we'll move right on.
Absolutely. Anyone have any questions? This is always
That's good.
No.
Oh.
Anybody? Yeah, here you go.
Sorry to just be loud and say we all miss Harold, but
I miss Harold, but I like David too, so don't get me wrong.
great guy. What was the total investment in your broadband system that y'all had?
$329 million. 50 of that was earmarked for communication. 50 million of that was earmarked for communication. The bulk of the expense, of course, falls to building the fiber network. We were fortunate. We went to we'd never done a bond issue. I don't know if we never borrowed money. That wasn't really what we'd ever done before. So we went to the bond market and got a bond for $229 million. And we just happened to be very fortunate. We would never have cash in the bank like that. But we had $111 million in the bank, and we applied for a grant, the Economic Recovery Act, and we were fortunate to receive $111 million under that grant. It was earmarked for smart grid, so none of that money went to building the communications. In fact, what it did was enable us to put those 1,200 smart switches in immediately. Our original business plan called for us to build the city of Chattanooga first, and then begin to sell customer services and take that cash and begin to build out from that area. And that grant money actually let us speed up that build. And so we, instead of a 10-year build, we collapsed it into about a 4-year build.
two things for you. So first, maybe if you could just say a little bit about the services you offer. I mean, you mentioned the speeds, but especially video and your experience there. And then second, I'd love for you to say something about 10 gig and kind of, some other things that really popped up in your community with your service offerings.
Sure, that's good. Thank you, Gary, for those questions. We offer triple play services. So I've talked about the internet. Our residential customers, our starting speed is 100 meg symmetrical. And some of y'all in this room I know are deploying are going to leapfrog us the day one, and that's awesome. That's great. It's 100 meg symmetrical, a gig, and 10 gig are the three speeds. We have some other speeds on the commercial side because commercial customers are a little bit more complex. On the video side, we launched with Ericsson Media Room. It's been an awesome system for us. Our customers, at the time we deployed, we just completely leapfrogged Comcast at the time, and so it was a great tool for us to roll out. We have 100,000 customers. About 65,000 of those take our video product. About 95,000 of those 100,000 take our internet. We also offer telephone services, and we use 2 soft switches in order to deliver that. And we have about a 35% take rate, about 35,000 residential phone customers. But where we really see the biggest bang for the buck, or where we see the biggest economic impact, is really in our commercial or our business telephone. We offer a whole range of different services, but businesses still use landlines. One of our most successful products has actually been a hosted PBX, because Chattanooga is kind of a small business market. We have a few large businesses, but for the most part, we have about 22,000 businesses, and about 15,000 of those are actually small companies. And they don't want to invest and put a lot of money into a big PBX on site. So they use our hosted PBX. So we take our soft switch and it looks like a PBX to them. They get all the features, all the functionality as if they had bought a big switch and put it on site. And so that's been a huge product for our commercial customers. Gary joined me in Chattanooga a couple of months ago to meet with some folks. They put on 10 gig festivals around the country. They were originally part of the Shark Tank, and they're Shark investors, and you've seen that NBC show, The Shark Tank. They're constantly looking for new business opportunities, and the one they've latched onto is esports. How many of y'all have ever watched or heard about Twitch? Okay, so all right. There are 30, 40,000 people watching Twitch and watching people play professional games online. It's going to overtake, I think, every sport with the exception of maybe the NFL in a very short amount of time. So they're from Los Angeles, and so they heard about, they were part of the original gig tank. They came and they stayed with us to figure out what you do with a gig. And now they split their time between Chattanooga and Los Angeles, and they host these gaming tournaments. They're leasing, or they've taken a part of the Chattanooga Choo Choo. If you ever come to Chattanooga, the iconic Chattanooga Choo Choo, they're turning a portion of that into a gaming venue. They hosted a tournament at our Memorial Auditorium a year ago. It's sold out. This stuff is real, and without access to high bandwidth, they would never come through Chattanooga. And they're just going gangbusters. And this is what's headed all of our ways. And which do you have to do this? You have to have high bandwidth. So that's just one of the examples of opportunities that came to town we had no earthly idea even existed.